Setiap arsitek akan punya cara-cara masing-masing yang sangat kreatif. Interpretasi, aku tadi sempat ngintip juga, ada site analysis. Nah, sebagai koordinator dalam TOR, kami tidak meminta Anda tentang metode apa yang digunakan untuk menafsir urban konteks ke dalam bangunan. Karena metode banyak macamnya, dan setiap arsitek punya cara-cara sendiri yang dia akan merespon bentuk kreatif itu. Jadi relasinya dengan tugas kalian di 3190 adalah bagaimana sebetulnya seorang arsitek profesional dia akan menafsir konteks kota dalam pandangan bajunya. Ada banyak perjalanan proses yang saya harapkan bisa menginspirasi Anda. Yes, Florian, you are ready to present? Okay, it's time for you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Hello, everybody. I hope you're fine that I'm speaking English. My Bahasa is still very bad, even though I'm living here, so it's still very bad. Sedikit maaf. Tinggal di sini 3,5 tahun, tetapi belajar bahasa, mohon maaf. So let's make this maybe a little bit more interactive and less stiff. So because I prepared a presentation, but when we had just a talk, so maybe I switched a little bit projects because of what you have to design or what is your design task. So I have a question first. Who has ever seen a lecture from SHAU before? No? One? Oh, presentation, I mean. Yeah, presentation. Who has seen a presentation? Okay. So not too many, so when I'm going to tell you whatever, you will be fine, right? So yeah, no, the thing is what I don't want to do is I want to repeat myself, you know. If everybody has seen, I don't know, what micro-libraries, then I don't have to show you again micro-libraries. So anyway, are you guys familiar with SHAU? Do you know SHAU? Oh wow, it's amazing. Okay, cool. So basically, I should give you a short introduction, nonetheless, about our office. Okay, it works. So yeah, so that's Daliana, my wife and partner, and me. And yeah, we together with a German guy, we founded SHAU. So we started out in the Netherlands, our friend in Germany started out in Germany, and then after a while, 3.5 years ago, we moved to Indonesia. So Dana and I, we have the Indonesian and the Dutch SHAU, whereas the Dutch is not much happening at the moment because we are here, obviously. And Tobias is still in Germany and is running the German office. A little bit about our background. So, Daliana was studying in Jakarta, did some internships at Andramati in Hanawal, and then she moved to the Netherlands, to the Berlach Institute, to do a master's degree. Me, I was studying at Munich University of Applied Sciences together with Tobias, where we did our graduation project together. And then I also moved after a while to the Berlach Institute. This is how I met Daliana, and then, you know, we got married, and then we worked for different famous offices, and then we decided to do some research and went to TU Delft and TU Eindhoven. And at that time, around 2009, we started to found SHAU. Yeah, 3.5 years ago we came here, and which was a very good decision because, like, within this 3.5 years, we could do a lot of stuff. So we designed like crazy, and also some of these things got built. Part of a market in Bojanegoro, the film park, the Lima micro-library, the Lancia micro-library, Alun-Alun, Cicendo, just a couple of examples. Good. Now I switch presentation because according to the urban context, I show you a project we were working for in Bagian1, and we decided that in 2016, as you can read, PGN Park Innovation Center, March 2016. I show you this project because it's maybe a little bit related to what you have to design in terms of co-working space and maybe innovation center. It's maybe not so much important in terms of urban context because it's on a big empty field or place in KULIAH in Bandung. But I think with this we can tackle a little bit the creative space aspect. So basically we were asked by KULIAH to have a look at the site. There's an old factory building and he would like to have a co-working space, a fab lab or manufacturing facilities and an event space. So what we did, okay, before we start designing, we started to form up a team. Basically we got in house to house for events. We got in Fab Lab, which already have their facilities in Bandung for dealing with that. Co, we used to work there, we used to have our offices there, so they organize also a lot of events and activities within this co-working space. Because you must know, a co-working space is not like a Costco-san. That means like, yeah, Costco-san is, you know, sometimes, I tell you the story a little bit different. Sometimes a client comes and says like, hey, I would like to make a co-working space. And I ask him, do you really know what it means to make a co-working space? Because they imagine, you know, they just have an old building and they make some open room for everybody to work. And then all of a sudden millions of, or a lot of people will show up and dump their money and they can earn money with that. And what I don't understand is a co-working space, it needs a lot of attention, it needs a lot of activation. So when you look at the Co & Co, who are our friends, you know, they make big events. They really think hard how to help these people there, how to make it an attractive place, and how that the people start to form a community. And a community does not just happen by, you know, making an empty room with desks. But some of the clients imagine that, and that's the reason why I'm saying, you know, are you willing to do this? Yes, no? If no, if you don't have the expertise, better make a Costco-san. So, now together we were responsible for the design, we formed a team, we have a lot of connections with whom we could collaborate, to bring in people, to organize lectures, and so on and so forth. So the vision is, you know, to create a design hub for Bandung, where furniture, products, textile, graphic, architecture, art is displayed, made an incubation center. That means like young designers who are good in design but have no idea about the business and how to make a business plan and how to run the business and how to get this product they're developing into the market. They would get help from this incubation center. And what you see here is an exhibition which happened in 2016 up in Batu, Sonario, no, Sonario? Yeah, the Sonario Art Space up there. So this was like part of our research. And the project would have been very interesting for Bandung because I would say back then would have been like the first one in Indonesia. Because in Bandung you also have a lot of old factory buildings, a lot of remnants, a lot of stuff which is sort of at the brink of the city, but is totally unused. So, for instance, what I heard recently is behind the Baltos should be quite interesting to go there. They have art events and stuff like this, but a little bit hidden, informal. But at a certain moment, I mean, you cannot continue with this informality, and so we were looking around a little bit in other Asian cities, and other examples. And there's one of it is the Zhongshan Cultural and Creative Park in Taiwan. And you see a little bit from the images, these are old factory buildings. I'm not quite sure if it was, I think it was a distillery before. But you see with these images that they transformed, oops, is this visible somehow? What you see, this is existing buildings, existing factory buildings, And what I try to do is, reactivate it, make public spaces, make open spaces for people to sit together, make exhibition spaces, a lot of landscaping, so that they create an attractive point for people to come, for instance, during the weekend. So you have, on one hand, you have the possibility to work, but on the other hand, we need also a greater public who is interested to go there. So, because if you deal with the creative industry, of course everybody can design and do something, but you need also to get the people there who are interested and maybe interact, maybe buy something. So you need to make it lively. So this is very important that you start thinking about programming. What other functions are needed to make the place work other than only a co-working space? What are the ancillary functions? What would you need that you bring people in there? Because most importantly is, I would argue, is that an exchange happens between the designers because they need a platform between people in a co-working space, maybe who create something, that you can have also, let's say, some form of exposing them to the greater public, and that you manage with, let's say, cafes, little shops, and so on and so forth, that people go there the weekend. This is a similar case. It's also in Taiwan. It's a little bit bigger, but you see they have like all these old factory buildings which they transformed into cafes, added some new stuff or added new stuff. So in our case in Bandung, on this big field, we have this sort of factory-like building, and I will go a little bit into the urban context in later slides, but the whole vision is we basically keep the building as much as possible, but you see, no, my mouse is not here. At least the upper structure, but what we see on this lower place is this closed wall. And we have this very big green area in front, so the idea is to make it a little bit like Stephen Hall. I don't know if you have this shop, seen this shop window project, I think it's called, where you can flip different elements of the wall open or close and make the access to the gallery behind. So it's a similar idea, that you're able to completely open the ground floor towards the lawn or towards the park in front, which is then filled with exhibition elements and so on and so forth. So we were looking at different ingredients. So because I'm part of this research is actually also to make a bit of a feasibility study, for whom are you designing and what would they like to have and what would they need. So now we have these different elements. We have the Fab Lab, we have the co-working office, we have events, we have exhibition and gallery, and we have food and beverage. So if you go now a bit into the co-working, so you also need to think about, or at least you probably don't need to think about it because you're designing, but since it was a project we all tackled together, some of the aspects for us also important is how can this place be run and make some money. Even if it's a non-profit thing, you always need to think about the fact that you need to hire people. These people need to eat. You need to do maintenance. So you need to evaluate a little bit what can make money. So you see here, commercial offices can't make money, right? Even if they're small commercial offices. But co-working only makes money if you have a critical mass. So if you go to Co&Co, what do you pay? I think 50,000 per day, and I don't remember the monthly fee. But so you need to get these people committed to use your co-working space and stay there for not a while, because otherwise, you just make a loss. So going into the site. So you see here this just Bagian1 last week here at the corner. Up there, the red part is the site. The main street around Bagian1. the big trapezoid green open space you see there is the old train yard in Bandung. So you have the. Oops.
Here's the train line. This is old train yard, and these are old buildings. Our side is here. So not far away we have the Trans Studio Mall. This is the garage. So we try to evaluate a little bit where would people come from, how could they enter, and what are the benefits of this location in relationship to all the other pieces. So where can we benefit from it? So this is the creative hub, the pink dot, the white building with these colorful pixels. So yeah.
Part of our analysis was also, to think, is it a good spot at all? So we were discussing, especially for this space, how could people reach it? Because it's relatively difficult, it's not as prominent because it's not directly at the Kiara Condom, it's also not directly at the Lasvi, so we were discussing, could we, for instance, have a shuttle bus or a public transportation which brings people here, because part of this co-working space also in front had had the idea or the request to do a study park, but that means, how do we get the students from these universities into this park in order to use it? So you see here, this is a bit the study with public transportation. That actually the train station itself is 1.3 kilometers away. Nobody's ever going to walk 1.3 or almost 1.4 kilometers. There are some Angkot lines, but you also know with Angkot, I don't know, who of you is using Angkot? Sometimes, yeah, me also sometimes. And, yeah, sometimes, but you step in, you don't, at least me, don't know exactly, is this the right Angkot? Then I'm relatively tall, so I'm cramped into this Angkot. So yeah, Angkot is not the best thing, at least for me. And then the guys are stopping, then they're not going, then they buy a cigarette, and then drink a coffee or whatever. So it's a bit of a weird thing. So yeah. Now, in order to activate this place, a rule of thumb: people walk maybe maximum 200 meters. After that, it becomes a little bit uncomfortable. So we need to think about, public transportation or shuttle buses from the station, university, to get people into the location, because the location as such is a little bit secluded. Future developments, residential towers, future block, the last future development. There was a master plan done for several elements like Congress Center, Trade Fair Center, hotels, and so on and so forth. And I also don't know currently what is the state of this project, but what I would like to hint at is, if you make this urban analysis, not only try to look what is there right now, but what are people, or what is the city, or whoever, the stakeholders, what is their future planning for it, what are they going to do? Because with that you could, create something which is supplementary, which is supporting the other function, or can benefit, or you maybe create something which already is there, or which is going to be there, and then you just create competition, and maybe your place does not work out because the other place is much better accessible. So accessibility and existing functions and analysis of a certain demand in the surrounding is a key factor in how you start programming your own space. Because you have like two aspects within this project. One is, of course, what material, what is design, how does it look, how does it feel, how is the space. This is all the design aspects. But you can make a place as good as you want, but if you're not able to, create an added value in terms of functions for the city and something which is needed, then maybe it becomes a nice Instagram spot, but in the long term, when the freshness of the space has worn off, in the long term nobody is coming and nobody is using, then we waste money and the space is not used to its full potential. So, in that sense, from this analysis we made strength, weakness, opportunities and threat SWOT analysis. So one of it was, one of the strengths is because we wanted to work together with PGN, is getting corporate social responsibility funds, so funding would be okay. The location is very nice with its greenery, it has some industrial heritage, has a park. With the park you can sort of think even about future developments, and you have a lot of square meter to play around, so they could potentially extend it. Weakness, as I already told you, was the public transport. Now, how do we get people there? A one-way street. There were no parking facilities other than street parking. The location is somewhat secluded. It's not very obvious to people. So you have to think about a way how to bring this place then into the awareness, into the minds of the people. The location we also saw a little bit of critical because it was not exactly outside of the city and it was not exactly central, so somewhere in between, where it's really difficult in a way to define the place in terms of identity a little bit, in terms of how do people see this area of the city, because it's not, if you want to buy some electronics, you go to Bandung Electronics Center, it's in the city, or if you want to buy something in an outlet store, you go out of the city, but this sort of in between, inside and outside, we found a little bit tricky. And the traffic situation at Kiara Condong is also a little bit bad. So I don't go so much into the threats because it's very much related to the client. But the opportunities would have been, making one of the first really impactful creative hubs in Indonesia. We could create added value. So if this center works, you also should think maybe with your project, what can it do in the future for the area? The spillover effect. So what would it add value for the area? And what would be the result? So if you start with a creative hub, maybe it becomes a creative quarter in the city. Something you have seen maybe in New York, right? In Manhattan, where they went from the meatpacking district to Harlem and so on and so forth. So there's always this cycle of gentrification. So maybe it's not so, you're not so aware about it here in Indonesia because it's not so visible. But what happens is artists and designers, they are poor, they don't have money, they go into a cheap location where they have cheap rents, cheap living costs, and then they start their workshops there. Once this got traction and more artists come, and talented artists come, the galleries follow. Because the galleries can make money with the artists can sell, and that's the moment when all of a sudden, slowly, the real estate prices, the land prices go up. Because after the galleries, then it's a hip place, that these people can afford it, they want to live there, and then all of a sudden, you have high-end apartments. And that, in return, kicks out the artists because they cannot afford it anymore. So they move to another place in the city. So this is sort of this cycle of gentrification. It's not necessarily something bad, but you should be aware of. So in some countries it's more regulated than in others, because if you have a strong regulation, you can still say, okay, there are artists and we can sort of lock down the rental prices. But if it is like only capitalism, like here, anything goes, That means as soon as the rich developers move in, the artists move out and they will discover a new hot place and make the new hot place. So in a way, you know, traveling endlessly around the city. Library, computer, laboratory, yeah. So, going on, now a little bit to the design. So you see here in a drawing, number one, so we have this existing boulevard. It's like a sort of brick layer, which you very much like and would like to keep, and it has a very nice access to the street, and it leads directly to this old factory building. So we wanted then in step number 2 improve the accessibility, organization, and flow. So we introduced this roundabout because we wanted to keep it as car-free as possible, and also giving a bus stop and a drop-off point for the public transportation, for the shuttle buses, as well as, you know, cars if somebody comes just drop off the people. And because we want to have a study park, we feel that noise is really a major issue in Indonesia, on Indonesian streets. So no scooters, no motor, no nothing allowed, because, you know, if they're and you try to study, then it's useless. So everything stays more or less outside. The only thing you get is a drop-off point. And with this straight street on the up, which is mostly so the just a second.
I get it. Or a stick is also fine. Stick. Ah, okay. I see it.
So basically the idea was here, the roundabout, here you can get the cars in for delivery, because, you know, if you have cafes and stuff, you still need getting stuff in and garbage out. But keeping this boulevard as a pedestrian boulevard. Because it's really, if you go there, it's really very nice to walk. There are some old trees left and right. It's like really like an avenue, almost you like going to a villa, going to a mansion rather than going to a factory building. So what we did is then we started to take this street and that street we created, and we started to generate these lines of flow. And these are our organizational lines for the actual design of the park. So basically, started to develop this park in this striated way, so everything sort of visually starts flowing towards this old factory building. So yeah, drop-off parking, security post, vehicle access, and keeping the pedestrian path. While we also keep that as a pedestrian path, and we shift the vehicle path up there, because here we still would have some possibility for parking, loading and unloading, but this is a very big open green area. So if we would have developed this first, we could have developed that in a second stage, and it would be immediately connected to this pedestrian path. Or we could, you know, start designing something new, which is directly connected. So we very much like this existing path here. So basically, yeah, this existing element, the existing wall, and then we started to develop this urban furniture in different configurations, different modules to generate the study park, and here a outdoor cafe restaurant. And so we played along with this ideas of the lines. These lines which we created in a sort of urban master plan or an urban design also becomes materialized in form of concrete elements, and the benches sort of flow up and down. And we made a whole catalog of how to create these benches and how to combine them. So basically, standardized elements. So you have, let's say, for the table, corner element, which you can just rotate. You have the other corner. You can insert elements to prolong the table, and the same goes for the benches. So you have this kinking element from a vertical volume to a horizontal volume with the insertion of this wood. You can turn them inside, outside, and again with certain elements you can prolong them. So what we wanted to create is that from this vocabulary, from this space vocabulary, or this space grammar, into something where you can start chaining them together in a linear way, but with chaining and flipping this whole geometry, creating different situations and possibilities for this part. So basically, two benches facing each other, you sit in front of each other for discussion. It continues with the table you study, you rest. Again, if you create a pocket, it's for meeting. So we try to sort of really start programming this whole part in terms of also where what should happen. So we made this sort of heat map where we say, okay, we have the drop off. That's a noisy zone. We have the cafe. It's also noisy or is not a lot frequented. So that means here people will more eat, they will more mingle. So we give them this table configuration. But the more we go into this direction, the quieter it becomes. And then in the center of this whole thing, we want to do something which is more for studying, for focus work, and so we arrange the furniture according to that. So that's another rendering from the entrance perspective, sort of how it sort of flows towards the factory building. And from that on, we developed the cafe with a similar language. We did the furniture. In the later stage, this was reworked. Looks similar, but a little bit different. I don't want to go too much into the design of this one now, but it has basically public toilets, a mushola on the ground floor, and then on the upper floor it has the cafe. So my geometry was done in such a way that we have these big windows. So we have this pentagon with these big windows, and you can overlook the entrance situation. You can see who is coming, and you have a direct view to the factory. That's this main element of the design. And so the interior of the factory, apart from making maybe these opening doors, we want to keep as much intact as possible. This shed roof is very good for lighting. So we came up with this idea of this fluid mezzanine, where we start to manufacture these rib elements in a curved linear way, and then also create several different programs and possibilities on the interior for the people to use in terms of co-working, fab lab, office spaces, lecture area, and so on and so forth. So, of course, since we have a fab lab here, the whole idea was that we use plywood construction, which then can be manufactured with CNC machines within the fab lab facilities, to also make it a applied showcase of what fab lab actually can do. So that's the rib structure inside, and you see in certain parts it's cut off, because this is the inside the existing part. You see it. You see it better. So the existing parts of the building connects the circular forum with a how do you call it? Screen and tribune or something. The speaker can be above the balcony, but it's above this line that when you sit here on the lower part, you can still look outside into the park. If you sit on the upper row, you can follow a lecture in a way. And yeah, that's stacked upon each other with integrated stairs and different possibilities for working. So basically, this is how we inserted it into the existing buildings, partly cutting through. So really like an installation which also starts connecting the different spaces than they were previously. So previously, you know, you have just a door here where you can go in, but if you generate this sort of big balcony, you know, then you can walk around here and go in and look inside and see what the people are doing down there, sort of this communication element. Yeah, so different areas, co-working area in the tribune, the upper floor, the ground floor, yeah, the exhibition area. So this is existing. We would have made open offices from that one. Here is all that Fab Lab stuff. One entrance, the other entrance, there's a nice courtyard which you would have redesigned and made more attractive. Yeah, I think all in all it would have been a really interesting project with relatively minimal intervention, but making something much bigger, much better out of it. Good cost estimation I'm not going to show you because this is confidential. Okay, yeah, that is now the Creative Park and Innovation Center. How much more time do I have? Still, are you still with me, or are you totally tired? Okay. Good. Then I talk a bit about the micro libraries. Yeah, with this, as you probably know, we are designing a lot of micro libraries, right? And now the fourth one is under construction. And so the idea, basically, you know, both Diana and I, we were living in Rotterdam, or I'm coming from Germany. So if you live in a city there, you always have a public library, and the public library in Rotterdam was amazing. It's a little bit constructivist, if you want to call it like that. Architecture, a bit like the Centre Pompidou in Paris with all the pipes outside. So if you're frank, you could say it's a pretty ugly building, but but the inside it was very nice because it was sort of terraced and stacked up, and they had a great section for children. So we always went with our son there on the weekend for reading because that was it. Playground facilities inside, you know, they made it special for the kids where there's a nice ring around. You can drop your little kid with a lot of cushions, and you know, they walk and play and they read their books. But now here in Indonesia, we feel, and it's not just a feeling, I mean, there's also research about it, that people are not reading enough books, and maybe you guys, with you, it's different because you're a little bit more privileged, coming from a different background, coming also from a different parents who were probably interested that you also read. But if you look nowadays in the cafe and the restaurant, you know, the only thing the kids have in their hands is their stupid iPads. And then on the other hand, we have the kids in the kampung, you know, who are roaming around and, you know, don't get any books in their hand. And so our idea for these micro libraries is, you know, to spark interest in reading, you know, because like if you look 50 years ago, you know, you could have been as poor as, you know, a mouse. Nonetheless, you know, people used to read. It was like one of the things they did, you know. But nowadays, you know, we just watch telenovelas and whatever. So, and this is not the right way, and especially not if you would like to bring Indonesia forward and would like to have a role Indonesia playing in the Southeast Asian context. So we need to spark interest in reading books again. You know, we need to educate people that they're also available, possible, and able to attain information from different sources, that they become critical, that they don't only believe what is said by a village elder. So we need to form the minds and form critical minds, because otherwise we don't have a healthy democracy. So the idea is with the micro-libraries to bring reading into a kampong location where not necessarily people are proud to read or inclined to read, in opposition to somebody who is maybe better educated. I'm not talking so much about the stakeholder diagram, but so we have like this 3 different scales in the city. So we have the city library, we have our micro library, we have the mobile library. So if you take the city library, the issue is it is very central, people need to get there, and because it's an official building, it's for some people it's imposing. So the threshold for going in, some people would never think about, okay, I go now to the library. It won't happen at all. We have the mobile library, they have this initiative in Lima, Lima, so there was already a book community before we even came. It's good, it works, but then you have a very little stock, you need always to change it, and it is not a building, it lacks representation, it cannot generate an identity for a neighborhood. So basically, what the micro-library does is sort of not combining both of it, but it is small enough that it could be inserted in any kampong location. It forms a little sort of center within the neighborhood, and it's close enough that people can just drop by. But now the most important thing is the library, and then this goes a little bit into the whole story, or it goes into the whole story about the urban context, is you have to be very specific at which location you would like to build a micro-library, and why, and how you do it. So, in the very beginning, before we actually had a site, we were working already together with Oktober, and we made some research in kampong locations. In this case, it was in Jakarta. We couldn't find a site in Jakarta at the end, so we built the first micro-library here in Bandung, also thanks to Kang Emil, because we presented him the idea and he gave us immediately a site. So we had the money to build, but we didn't have a site, and Kang Emil was, of course, a very smart person, immediately saw the opportunity and he gave us just a site. But what we did with this evaluation is, so this is, I would say it's the first stage, because it is more of a spatial layout evaluation rather than a functional and social fabric evaluation. But but after building the first micro-library, you start to become aware and realize what other aspects are playing a role and what other factors you have to take into consideration. But basically, as a spatial configuration, you could say, okay, we have the spot, there's enough sites, and you build a sort of little central library, which is visible from all around, and people sort of works as an attractor, as a sort of mini icon. Or this, mini icons we have built like the Lima one. But the other idea was, if it's noisy, you have a corner, you build basically a wall or a gate where you generate your own micro surrounding or your own micro context by forming a backyard. One of those we haven't built yet. But basically, with this urban idea, we developed our first prototypes, which is here. This is the wall. So basically, it's an L-shaped library you can walk through, and you would generate a sort of backyard which is a little bit secluded and a little bit more quiet, and it's a bit separated from the street and less noisy, and sort of more focused on the library functions itself. And this one here is actually the idea of we have a floating volume. and we raise it up. You can use the deck underneath for reading, and basically only the books are stored inside and you don't walk up, and maybe you could also use it in a region in the city which is a little bit problematic in terms of flooding because it's on stilts, so the books are always flooding. And this sort of first prototype we designed actually was then reworked in the second stage into the micro library. And I don't want to talk too much about the design of the Beamer library because I've shown it so often and I think people maybe know it by now. So, but this is the Beamer library. So, do you know it? Yeah. Okay. So, I would like to go a little bit into this urban context now. So, what is very interesting about the Beamer library is the neighborhood. Because you have here Jalan Bima, you have the park, which is actually exclusively used by these people because they're the kampung people. This is middle-class housing. Those people don't go here, but in a very strange or very almost bizarre way, this park is in its physicality, much closer to them. So basically, what you have, the kampung carved out as sort of space into the middle-class housing. And it didn't turn out to be a problem, but you know, in the beginning, people living there, when we started constructing it, they were very afraid of people can look into their courtyards and maybe get the idea of stealing something, you know, because it's a raised structure. But what is much more important about this space is because it's like this only open place where people can gather and mingle, it is already used by people. So whatever you do, if you want to place a new function, a communal function, you should always look out for a space which is already in use by people to plug yourself on top, rather than just saying, okay, this is an empty lot I built here. Because we are aware that people are not so much interested in reading. So if I would have an open lot somewhere here, or let's say here, and build a micro-library there, but because it's not a space which was in use before by the neighborhood, by the community, nobody would go there. So therefore, you have to find places and spots in the city where the community is already active. And in this case, they have sports facilities, can play football, so they have futsal there, and they had this stage. This one that they had already, it was just looked a little bit different, but we built on these two factors, meaning we were aware if we now build the micro-library on the ground, we either take away the football and no kids would come, or we take away the stage and the whole community which is gathering there would also not come anymore. So what we did is, okay, we built the volume on top, then the stage is shaded and rainproof, which they didn't have before, so we add value. We don't take away the football, we make seating stairs. Everybody sits there, can watch play football, it's like a mini stadium. So we add up, we add value. We improve the space with our architecture and we give them a library on top. And because it's sort of a mini icon, everybody knows the 2000 Amber ice cream and becomes a source of pride in the neighborhood and it attracts the people. So this is our urban design strategy. So I'll zoom in, but I think it's not much different, you saw it. Of course, we're also building other micro-libraries. This still we try to get built. We're still in talks with Florian Heinzelmann, so let's see if we can build it, maybe not in Bandung or somewhere else in Jawa Barat. And this is almost finished. This is in Bojaniko. You see, this is it's in a park. It's a little bit of a different situation because a park, I would argue, gives you a little bit less of an urban context because a park is always an attractor in a city where a lot of people come from different places to the park. So you're not dealing with exclusively one neighborhood in one interest group and one social structure. we're dealing in a way with a lot of people. So therefore, the design is much less responsive to a certain program and much less programmatic. So we have a playground around, but what we did is we call it the Salazar microlibrary, basically the covered walkway. You have also in the campus, sorry. It sounds pretty similar. So basically we make the Salazar, we wrap the Salazar around the tree and have inside then the library where the books are and where you can rent the books. So basically we have all these sliding doors, with these textile elements here. They're not installed yet, but during the day you can have them open or closed depending on where the sun is coming. Do you need shade or shadow? But you sit here around, you can watch your kids play in a sort of shaded and a bit better microclimatic space than if you would sit somewhere in the sun. And again, we play a little bit here with a similar appearance with the translucent spanduk material we're using here, so it starts also glowing and becoming sort of a lantern in the park, similar to the Beamer library. But what I would like to explain a little bit more in depth is now the microlibrary hanging gardens, which is under construction, which is Bagian1 in Bandung. And I think it's also a very interesting spot and a very interesting story. Just give me a second. Manila Water is a company from the Philippines and would like to do business with the city of Bandung, so they have water pumping. And Ridwan Kamil told them, we can make business, but you pay us a microlibrary. So that's how the whole thing started. And we had several sites, and we looked at several sites, and one was in a middle-class neighborhood, not far away, where Manila Water has actually their office. But we said, like, what good does it do? Of course you have a microlibrary then sitting in your front yard, and you can show it to your clients, but nobody would actually use it. So we asked, are there other possible sites? So we walked around, and this was one of the sites at Bagian1. So you see, it has here the street front. It looks a little bit, how to say? How would you describe this now? This would look a little bit messy, let's say. Okay. And behind that, you drive around here, and then you have this big parking lot, basketball, and actually we picked that as a site, also because of what is around there. And that's the point, the messy point, and that's where the basketball court is. And a bit of a zoom in, you don't have to hurt your eyes so much. But so what works very well, it's a sort of very central location or a hub, I would argue, within the whole neighborhood. Because we have the elementary school, we have the district office, we have the clinic, we have the military. So, and here of course we have a lot of shops and food places and so on and so forth. So a lot of people are coming here. So the idea is, how can we get these kids also in here, and how can we add value for the neighborhood, and what can we do? So we came up with the concept of the hanging garden. So how can we add value? And because I need to show you that one, it's in a different presentation, because our first design was a different one, and we changed it completely. That also happens sometimes. So our first design was that one. So this is much more sculptural and much more, maybe for some people, geometrically more interesting. We already had this idea of bringing a slide in here so we can lure all the kids into the library and then just run up here and slide down. And the viewing platform on top. because we thought like, okay, we could use this also as a seating steps, and then people watch the other people playing basketball, and you can stand up there and maybe have a little singing or whatever. So the relationship with the outside, sort of a little bit the spectacle. But in the end, what happened was the whole thing in terms of constructing it got a little bit complicated, and with our client, we would have to take a lot of risk in building it, meaning they wanted us to do design and build, which means if we delay the building process, we have to pay a fine. And you know, for a social project which we make non-profit more or less, you know, it's crazy to pay fines on. Something you work together with, also with other companies, will help you a lot. You know, basically the CNC manufacturing people, you know, they would have given us a very, very good price, because otherwise we would not have been able to make it. But we cannot then say like, hey, yes, give us a good price, but if you're delaying, we fine you. I mean, that just doesn't work. So we changed the design, and basically it's the hanging garden design now, which is this one. So basically, we kept the stairs, just reinterpreted the stairs from a circular array into a rectangular array, and then we thought like, okay, what could we do with the stairs more than just walking up? And then we got this idea of actually we could make huge planter boxes from them. So, this one. So make huge planter boxes, so still people can walk around and they can walk up, and still there will be a slide. So here. There you see the slide. The slide won't be up there because it's too dangerous. We thought like, because this is sort of on the third floor, if kids are sliding around and climbing around like crazy, and some falls off and breaks the neck, that wouldn't be good. So we decided to put the slide down here, so they're sliding down here. So if somebody is climbing crazily and falls, if somebody is climbing over the handrail and falls, then maybe it breaks the leg and not the neck. And learns a lesson, but you know, not so much damage is done. But so yeah, but basically, so the idea is okay to again add value, in this case urban farming. So adding this plantation is twofold in terms of benefits, because if you have a big plantation layer, rainwater is captured, rainwater evaporates, when it evaporates it cools. Plants also for the surrounding generate, because there was a very, as we have seen in the beginning, this big concrete area, big concrete field, so even though there were trees around, we wanted to add more green to improve the microclimate around the location. And by involving the urban farming community, so we already have then people invested in this place, in this building, who additionally take care of, who additionally care for the location, maybe help with the maintenance, and also look out a little bit, control the kids, control the people, and say, hey, look, this is where we grow our tomatoes, stop littering, you know, this is, so what you want to do is you want to get a community around the whole thing, somebody who, yeah, really feels ownership of the building, or ownership of the place, even though they don't own it, but we would like to create something for this community. So we thought like, okay, maybe it could be a herbal garden, maybe it could be beneficial to the hospital if you grow food, and if you grow healthy food, it could be also beneficial to the hospital. So you can start making synergies between the hospital, make synergies between the school. You attract a lot of kids, because we know from the Bima Micro Library, the school nearby does not have a library, so the school kids go there to this library. So to generate synergies as much as possible. Synergy with the military, I don't know if there is any, but maybe. So yeah, this is the model photo, and you see here in this floor plan, in the section, how it steps up. So the actual micro-library is relatively small in comparison to the whole building. So you just enter here in the front, you have the desk, you have rows of shelves, you have this reading area. So the whole height here is around 2 meters. It's relatively low. So this is down here. And then you have the children's section, which is even lower, which you don't see as a problem, but much more something like, which creates an intimate space rather than something big. So you have like, if you go in here, it's very high. It's around 3 meters because it steps 2 meter, 250, 350. So it's a very high space. But then when you go to the reading, sort of, it asks you to sort of snug down and sit on the floor and have it cozy and comfortable, more like a cave-like situation. So creating different situations, different scenarios in the interior. So this is the whole library area. And then here you can walk up and spiral up and have your viewpoint and plant your stuff and slide down as a kid. So you see this is how it is currently looking under construction. So this will be all filled with green, with green, with green. It's also very interesting when you go up there, you're standing really very close to the tree. So there's a new different experience in a way. So we want to have this thing totally overgrown, almost like a forgotten building, a ruin, you know, where all the green is growing and the moss and the stuff. And, you know, it's just something nature reclaims. So that was also the reason in terms of materiality that we use raw concrete, so a bit of a brutalist building. But you know, if then all the plants are hanging down, we imagine it will be sort of almost like a ruin. You know, if you go through Europe and you see this castle which is overgrown, and you would like to know, and you would like to climb, and you would like to see what's inside. So this sort of feeling, this sort of mystery, we would like to evoke in people too when they go there. And it has a very good view over the roofs and the mountains. So if you stand up there, you know, I was very surprised because, you know, we built models, we draw it in 3D in Rhino, and, you know, in the model it looks like small and harmless, but then once you go up there and you're almost in the 3rd floor on an open platform, you realize, man, this building is quite huge actually. So, and you have like this view over the roof, so this is also something new for the people because they always experience their city, their place from a street level, which is sometimes like I said, a bit messy, but now you go up there and all of a sudden you can see, hey, actually there's this mountain over there, or, you know, this is actually our neighborhood from above. So I guess that also gives a new perspective to people. So I think now it's 10. Is it? Should I continue? Oh,